Okay, so in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus takes one of the most famous commandments, you shall not murder, and he completely flips it on its head. He's about to reveal a deeper and honestly a way more challenging truth, one that looks right past our actions and straight into our hearts.
It sounds impossible, right? But this is the exact question Jesus is forcing his listeners and us to really wrestle with. He's about to redefine one of the 10 commandments, shifting the whole focus from what our hands do to the actual state of our hearts.
You see, the religious experts of the day, they had this system of righteousness all built on outward appearances. They taught this version of the law that you could follow perfectly on the outside, check all the boxes, even while your heart was cold and angry. But Jesus, he came to absolutely shatter that superficial understanding.
Now, to really get just how radical Jesus' teaching was, we first have to understand what everyone at the time thought they knew. The sixth commandment was a big one: you shall not murder. And the interpretation seemed pretty straightforward.
For them, righteousness was basically a checklist. As long as you didn't physically take a life, you could check that box and, hey, consider yourself obedient. It was kind of like a legalistic loophole that completely missed the spirit, the whole point of God's law.
And this is where Jesus makes the pivot. He's not getting rid of the old law, not at all. He's actually revealing its true original intent. He takes his audience from a courtroom that only judges actions into the inner court of the human heart, the place that only God can see.
This right here is one of the most stunning, just jaw-dropping moments in the entire Sermon on the Mount. Jesus puts anger on the exact same spiritual level as the act of murder. He's saying the same judgment applies because the root cause is identical. And listen to how he says it. You have heard it said, but I tell you. He's not just another teacher giving his opinion. He's speaking as the lawgiver himself.
So the crucial point is this. Violence doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It starts as this tiny seed of anger or contempt in the heart. And by going after the root, the anger itself, Jesus is getting to the true source of the problem. He's showing us that God's standard of righteousness goes way, way beyond our outward actions.
Jesus then gives us this really chilling breakdown of how this internal anger starts to bubble to the surface. He shows that it doesn't just stay hidden inside. It escalates, and it starts poisoning our relationships through the words we use.
Let's just look at this progression for a second. It moves from an internal feeling, anger, to an external insult of contempt, and then finally to just outright condemnation of another person. And notice how the consequence gets more serious with the sin, from a general judgment to the Sanhedrin, which was the highest court in the land, and then, ultimately, to the final judgment of Gehenna, which was a real valley used for burning trash, a powerful symbol for hell.
Now, Raka might sound strange to us, but it was a pretty common insult back then. Think of it as dismissing someone as a brainless idiot, a numbskull. While society might have just seen it as a harmless put-down, Jesus says, no, this is serious enough to be brought before the Jewish Supreme Court. He's teaching that words that strip away another person's value have severe, real-world consequences.
But calling someone a fool in this context, that was even worse. The Greek word here is more, which is actually where we get our word moron. This wasn't just about someone's intelligence. This was a complete character assassination. It was looking at a person made in the image of God and declaring them morally worthless, spiritually bankrupt, a rebel against God. And that, Jesus warns, puts you in danger of the fire of Gehenna itself.
So, after diagnosing this disease of anger, Jesus provides the cure, and it's a radical one. He teaches that healing our broken relationships isn't just, a good idea. It's an absolute, urgent priority that comes before anything else, even an act of worship.
I mean, just picture the scene. You're in the most sacred place. You are at the very altar of God, about to make your offering. This is the absolute peak moment of religious devotion. And it's right there, in that holy moment, that your conscience gets pricked. You remember a broken relationship. And what Jesus says next is just revolutionary. Stop everything. Don't even finish your act of worship. Just leave the gift right there. The gift can wait. God is way more concerned with the state of your relationships than he is with the ritual of your sacrifice. Your horizontal relationship with other people directly impacts your vertical relationship with God.
This is really the heart of the matter. We can't claim to love God whom we cannot see if we're harboring anger and contempt for our brother or sister whom we can see. Real, true worship flows from a heart that is at peace with others. Reconciliation always comes before ritual.
And this urgency isn't just for those traumatic moments at the altar. Jesus extends this whole principle of rapid reconciliation to our everyday lives, even to our legal fights and personal squabbles.
The wisdom here is so practical, but it's also deeply spiritual. Settle your issues quickly. Don't let conflict just sit there and fester and grow until it ends you up in front of a judge or in a prison, whether that's a literal prison or a metaphorical one. The longer we let anger and disputes go unresolved, the more destructive they become.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway from this radical teaching? Well, first, anger is the spiritual seed of murder. Second, our words can be weapons with the power to dehumanize and destroy. Third, our relationship with God is totally tangled up with our relationships with people, which makes reconciliation an urgent top priority. And finally, true righteousness isn't about some external checklist, it's all about the internal condition of our hearts.
Jesus' teaching here isn't just some abstract theology. It's a direct challenge to how we live, how we think, and how we speak every single day. He doesn't just leave us with this impossibly high standard. He calls us to look inside ourselves and then to act. So the question for all of us is this: who do we need to go to first before we bring the rest of our lives to God?